Hello, ladies. We are going to talk through the section 5.5 day 2 notes, which are actually getting into the factor and remainder theorems. So yesterday was all about polynomial long division. Today we are learning the shorthand method, or the shortcut, if you will, and that is called synthetic division. So synthetic division is a shorthand way of dividing a polynomial by a linear binomial. Remember that linear means that it is first degree. Binomial means that there are two terms. So a linear binomial, and we only use the coefficients, so we don't have to set it up the same way that we set up our long division problems, which is kind of nice. Now it has to be a linear binomial, and so that means that the divisor, the thing that you are dividing by, has to be written as either x minus some number or x plus some number. And then what we do is we first set that divisor, that x plus a or x minus a, equal to 0 and solve for the variable. Just like if you were factoring and you got x plus 3, and if you were asked to solve, well, even though you see an x minus 3, when you set that equal to 0, you would get x equals positive 3, right? So that's exactly what we'll do. We set that divisor equal to 0 and solve for your variable. And then what we do is we put that number in a box, which will make sense in a second, and we write the coefficient of the dividend, so the long one, and the divisor solution, that x equals 3, for example, in synthetic division form, including zeros for missing exponents. So just like yesterday, remember that if we went, x to the fourth plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 1, you had to include in there, x to the fourth plus 0x cubed, right? Same goes for today. You need to include those missing zeros. And then what we do, it says, we bring down our first coefficient, multiply by the number in the box, then add that solution to the next coefficient and repeat. It'll make sense when we get to it, but notice that this time we are adding, right? Yesterday we kept emphasizing that when we were doing our long division, we were subtracting. Now with our synthetic division, we are adding, so you have to keep that straight from the other. And then eventually we write our quotient in standard form, and we need to remember that your quotient is going to be 1 degree less than your dividend, so what you started with. So if you start with an x to the fifth and we divide by whatever, we're going to be left with an x to the fourth, okay? And then your remainder, just like yesterday, will be a fraction with a denominator of your divisor, so whatever we were dividing by. So let's get to it. Example 1a, we first want to set what we're dividing by equal to 0. Well, if we have x plus 3 equal to 0, x is going to be equal to negative 3. That is the number that will go in our box. And then on that same row, we are going to go in decreasing order of our exponents, right? So we're starting with x to the third, x to the second, x, and then our constant. I will often write those just so that I remember to include any zero coefficients of missing exponents if I need to. So our coefficient of x cubed is a 3. Our coefficient of x squared is a positive 17. Coefficient of our x is that 21. And our constant is that negative 11. Alrighty, and now what we will do is we'll leave just a little bit of space underneath and we'll draw in a horizontal line. And like our instructions say, the first thing that we do is we bring down that first coefficient. So that first number is going to stay the same. Then what we do is we multiply the number in the box by the number that's below that horizontal line. So negative 3 times 3 will give us a negative 9. And then that's the number that goes up next. Now what we do is we add technically. So now we'll add 17 plus a negative 9, which will get us a positive 8. Now remember that today we are adding, whereas yesterday we were subtracting. Now we multiply the number in the box by the number below the line. Negative 3 times 8 is going to be a negative 24. Now we add 21 plus a negative 24 is going to be a negative 3. And we'll multiply the number in the box by the number that is below the line. just get rid of that so we can see the yellow. And we have negative 3 times negative 3, which this time is a positive 9. And we add negative 11 plus 9 is going to be a negative 2. And what I always immediately do is I box off that last one and I make a little r, because negative 2 is your remainder. So here's the cool part. If we started with an x to the third, we lose 1 degree. So our coefficient of 3, instead of x to the third, we go down a degree, x to the second. And then it's a positive 8, and we just go in decreasing order. So x to the second, x to the first, and then technically we have a plus negative 3, but whatever. And then that would be our constant, right? So 2, 1, and then nothing. And here is your remainder. Well, just like yesterday, we put our remainder as a fraction over whatever we divided by. So our final answer is 3x squared plus 8x minus 3, or plus negative 3, plus that negative 2 over x plus 3. In example B, we're going to be doing pretty much the exact same thing. So we begin by setting that set of parentheses equal to 0, and that we can do pretty quickly. When we do, we'll notice that x is going to be a positive 2. So 2 will be our number in our box, and we go in decreasing order for our exponents. So x to the third, x to the second, x to the first, and our constant. Remember to include all of those, even though you'll notice we do not have a coefficient for each of those values. But that's okay. So then our coefficient of x to the third is 3. Coefficient of x squared, there's that positive 4. Coefficient of x does not exist, so it's a 0. But our constant does exist, it's a 10. Leave a little space, bring down a horizontal line. Start by bringing down that 3. Then we multiply it by the number in the box times the number below the line. 2 times 3, we get 6. And we add 4 plus 6, we get 10. We'll multiply the number in the box by the number below the line. 2 times 10 is 20. And we add 0 plus 20 gives us a 20. And we multiply 2 times that 20. Maybe I should stop using yellow. 2 times that 20 is going to give us 40, which will be our number over here. And we add 10 and 40 to give us 50. And again, I automatically box that off. That will be our remainder. Now, our final answer needs to be a polynomial, because we're doing polynomial division still. We started with an x to the third, so that means that I start with an x to the second, plus 10, and you just go in order. So x to the second, x to the first, your constant, and then like always, your remainder will be written as a fraction over what we divided by. So our final answer is 3x squared plus 10x plus 20 plus that remainder.